All right, guys, we got to have this conversation about Lamar Jackson, guys. And I know some people are going to hate me for this video. It is what it is, right? This is just my own personal opinion. Some people may say it sucks. Some people may say it don't suck. But listen, Lamar Jackson is a phenomenal football player. He's a phenomenal player. He can make plays with his legs. Extremely mobile, extremely agile, very intelligent. But man, is he overrated as hell as a passer, right? He can make plays, especially throws off platform. He's amazing when it comes to extending plays, inside the pocket, outside the pocket, right? One of the best mobile quarterbacks of all time, if not maybe the best that most people would consider. But my goodness gracious, as a passer, this dude overrated. Now, it's not. I will say this: it's not entirely his fault. Because at the end of the day, if you take a look at the play, if we combine play design and if you combine the personnel that dude has, it's not the greatest. He still to this day doesn't have an elite receiver. And listen, I like Zay Flowers a lot, but let's be honest here, Zay Flowers is more of a number two. He's not really more of a number one. He's more of a number two receiver. Your other best receivers are Nelson Aguilar and Rashad Bateman. Really, your best weapon on the team is Isaiah Likely. Mark Andrews, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think since he suffered that injury, he might not be the same player, or at least he may, that he used to be. And that, again, when you're getting older, especially at the tight end position, we start to see a rapid decline as players start to age. Isaiah Likely is the best player offensively from a skill position standpoint on that team. But this is kind of the worry a little bit. And listen, you're going against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a really, really good defense with Steve Spagnuolo kind of coaching. Derek Nandi, you got Derek Nandi, Bolton, Chris Jones. I mean, listen, we all know that the Chiefs are going to have a very, very good defense. And Derrick Henry, he'll get going. Lamar Jackson will have Lamar Jackson, despite me kind of criticizing him today, and again, I didn't think he had the best game overall statistically. I mean, he had over 100 yards rushing and he had 271 passing. He was smart. He was very, very efficient with the ball. Didn't really make a lot of huge mistakes in terms of turning over the football. And like I said before, Todd Monken with some of these play designs, a lot of RPO, a lot of screens, a shit ton of screens to Zay Flowers, getting the tight ends involved. Again, Isaiah Likely kind of playing out wide and sometimes in the slot, especially when they're running 12 personnel. Slipping, right, letting the running backs kind of slip out. We saw Justice Hill get really involved. And, in terms of the receiving game, kind of slipping him out and how effective he kind of was, especially in those short yard situations. But this is kind of what Lamar Jackson's game, this is kind of what they made his game to go off of, right? These short to intermediate throws. And occasionally he'll go on the second level. Occasionally he'll make these second to maybe third level type sort of throws. But then there's these cases, man, where he's not really going through the progressions as fast as you kind of want, as fast as you kind of want him to do. There's times where he does stare at some of these receivers, and there's times where his decision making in terms of when he's throwing some of those deep balls, it's kind of like, man, like there is certain occasions, man, where you're throwing it into blanket coverage. You know what I'm saying? And there were a couple passes that definitely should have been picked off. Now, listen, Lamar Jackson's a hell of a football player. Not saying Lamar Jackson's the worst passer in the world. I just think he's overrated as hell as a passer, as a football player, as a quarterback overall. This dude is he's one of the best in the league. There's a reason why he's a 2-time MVP, and it might not be all on him because of the personnel that he has. Still doesn't have that elite outside receiver. The Baltimore Ravens, whether if it's not, it's Greg Roman or now it's with Todd Monken. The game, it's different compared to a bunch of teams in the National Football League, right? The Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, like we saw tonight, the Detroit Lions, the Green Bay Packers. Like they all have at least some. Well, you could take the Chiefs. They all. No, I'll put the Chiefs in there. Like they all have threats on the outside. I don't know who that true threat for the Baltimore Ravens may be. I mean, is it Zay Flowers? Let's be real here. Because it seemed today like the only true threat going down the football field was Rashad Bateman and Isaiah Likely. We'll see. I think Zay Flowers is another. I think he's Hollywood Brown. Me personally, I think he's Hollywood Brown. I think he just has better hands. And Hollywood Brown's a very underrated receiver. But man, I mean, I don't know. I watch the Ravens and I watch the Chiefs, and I'm like, Lamar just, it's a lot of short intermediate throws. It's a lot of just, I'm throwing it, just a lot of throws behind the line of scrimmage, or it's just 1-2 yard throws and just let my playmakers go out there and just get yak. And then occasionally he'll go for like the second and third level sort of throw. But you watch Mahomes and you watch Lamar Jackson as passers, and it's like, man, it's like there's a significant difference between the two in terms of play style, in terms of just how they operate as quarterbacks. And that's not particularly a bad thing. But, it's just one of those cases, one of those scenarios where I think the Ravens you got to give him, at some point, you got to give him a weapon on the outside. You got to give him someone that can threaten and take the top off the defense. Because at some point, man, you're going to go against at some point, man, this is what happens when you go into the playoffs and you shut that down. You shut down the short intermediate game down, and you force Lamar Jackson to throw it down the field. We've seen this plenty of times in the playoffs where you have to make him a true passer. And at the end of the day, there's a reason why he's 2-4 in the playoffs. So as great as a player as he is, as great as the Baltimore Ravens are as a football team, and they will have a good regular season record, no doubt about it. I wouldn't be surprised at all if maybe they finish atop of the division again, because that's how good of a football team they are. There are plenty of faults with the Baltimore Ravens. There are plenty of faults, I would say, with Lamar Jackson. There are plenty of faults with the personnel that they have, with the and honestly, I think coaching. I think coaching and play design also matters. I think this Ravens team offensively, they're going to be in trouble. Because you look at that offensive line, Lamar had to scramble for his life. A lot of the time, he had to scramble for his life because the offensive line just couldn't hold up, and that's a very young and it's an offensive line that clearly they're not as good as they were last year. So, I don't know, man. Again, you brought Derrick Henry in to run the football. You brought him in here to take the pressure off Lamar Jackson. Well, Derrick Henry had, 13 carries tonight? But, I don't know. Again, the good thing is you got Likely. You still, Flowers can make plays. And Andrews, we'll see what kind of goes on with Andrews, because since Likely has kind of been the tight end, Andrews has clearly been tight end too, and so his targets are going to go down. His production, I think, overall is probably going to drop down. I think he's going to be a quality tight end, but he may not be as good as we are accustomed to seeing him. I think Likely has clearly took over the role as being the best receiver slash kind of hybrid slash tight end for this team. But man, there are some concerns with this Ravens squadron. There's some concerns, I definitely think, with this personnel and the coaching staff. And I think overall wise, I do have some concerns with Lamar Jackson. Because he did lose a crap ton of weight to get faster, to get quicker. But we got to remember what happened the last couple years before he did bulk up. He got hurt. Why? Because they ran that man to the ground. Yes, he was fast. Yes, he was quick as shit. But what happened? He got hurt. That's the reason why he even bulked up in the first place, was because he can take more punishment. So we'll see what happens with the Baltimore Ravens, man. In terms of the Kansas City Chiefs, they played a sloppy game. I thought they played sloppy in the second. They honestly could have blew out the Ravens. They played a little sloppy on the offensive side of the ball. They'll get things straightened out. Again, I'm not worried about the Chiefs. The Chiefs can play the sloppiest football you'll ever see, and they'll still find a way to probably reach the Super Bowl. That's the reason why I'm not even really talking about them. The Baltimore Ravens have these huge ass expectations. Some people, freaking NFL Draft Network had them going 17-0, which was one of the dumbest takes I've ever seen. But the Ravens have all this immense pressure. The Ravens have all this expectation of getting past Kansas City. Hell, even the pregame, that's what they keep talking about it. So that's what I'm going to talk about the most are the Baltimore Ravens, the self-proclaimed favorites to potentially getting past the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's why I'm doing it. So it is what it is. Catch you guys on the next one.